Now it's time for the Winthrop Coaches Show, live from Buffalo Wild Wings. Join us throughout the season at BW3 off the beautiful Boulevard behind the Galleria Mall. Send questions for men's coach Pat Kelsey and women's coach Kim Cook via Twitter. Use our hashtag #Coaches. That's hashtag WU Coaches. It's time to talk news. Here's Dave Freeman and Mike Cucino.
And a pleasant good evening, a happy new year. Welcome to Buffalo Wild Wings, our 2015 debut of the Winthrop Coaches Show. Glad you're along with us, and I hope you'll join us throughout the season at BW3 as we meet here each week to talk Winthrop basketball. The women's basketball team is home tomorrow night to take on UNC Asheville. The women are 7-6 overall, 3-1 in conference play. The men are 6-7, 1-1 in the Big South. They will be at Presbyterian tomorrow night. The men are home to face Radford on January 17th, whether it be the women's game tomorrow night, the men's game against Radford on the 17th, or all the home games throughout the year. You can get tickets, 803-323-2345, 323-2345, or online at winthropeagles.com. Women's team coming off a 14-point loss against Gardner-Webb, their first loss of the conference season. We're joined now by women's head coach Kevin Cook. What happened against the Runnin' Bulldogs?
Well, Happy New Year to you too, Dave. It's good to be here, and looking forward to the game tomorrow night with UNC Asheville.
Well, let's take a look, though, against Charleston Southern. Let's start there. We got a good win on the road. Bucknome sometimes can be a difficult place to play. And Erica Williams, we've seen now the last 3 games, 3 double-doubles. And I know you issued a challenge to her when we were out in Wichita to try to do a little bit more defensively. She's picked up the offense as well.
Yes, and at just the right time. We're happy to get the wins against Longwood and Charleston Southern. Those were good outings for us, and Erica has been absolutely tremendous on both sides of the ball, and we're pleased that she's had double-doubles and picked up her rebounding, and she's really shooting the ball very efficiently within the parameters of our offense. And we've played well offensively the last 3 games, even though, joking here with Dave, it wasn't a real joking matter. The loss to Gardner-Webb, we got out-efforted. That's what happened. To come back to your question, I was planning on answering it. We got outworked, and that is not acceptable. And we addressed that the next day in a 1-hour film session, and then one of the toughest 1-hour practices known to mankind.
And when you look at the response, how did the players respond to that?
Well, afterwards, they were pretty tired. I can say that. I think it was positive. They got together as a team last night and bowled and kind of regrouped and recentered. And today's practice was very, very good, and we're looking forward to tomorrow night. The good thing about playing all these games in a short run, if you do have a bad outing, you can hopefully get the bad taste out of your mouth quickly. You don't have to wait, 4 or 5 days. You can turn right around, and that's the beauty of the NBA. I mean, the Big South Conference.
Who is the team's best bowler?
I would have to say Erica Williams, with coming in second, Shaquila Nunn. She kind of bowls like Randy Johnson pitches.
How much of the team bonding stuff is important to do throughout the season, not just before the year?
Well, after a game like Gardner-Webb, it was vital. So, you have to get that out of your mind and, like I say, kind of renew and come back together and get refocused and rebond. And we did that, and they did that. So Yeah, it's important. Especially, it's a different kind of atmosphere. People just might not understand, playing during this break. The men's and women's team are the only people on campus. And I think everyone's looking forward to getting the student body back.
There's so many good pieces here, and it's a matter of getting everybody on the same page, putting everything together night in and night out. Sometimes it can be a difficult chore, but with a difficult game like this, how do you kind of pull things together? Because they obviously they're defending champs, so that's talent there. They believe in themselves, but it's just bringing that effort and energy every night. And I know you preach it every day, every practice, every minute.
You've heard it, and they're probably tired of hearing it, but it's a consistency thing, and it's something that is part of the culture that you're trying to build. That every practice, every game is an opportunity, and they have got to see it as a challenge and to have actually a professional mentality as they go about their business and take care of practices and not just try to get through them, but try to improve and get better. And then just having that competitiveness during a game sometimes is difficult. And it's certainly been difficult for us because we battled it. You've seen games like the Auburn and Charleston Southern where we came out ready from the opening tip.
Yeah.
And then you've seen other games like Wichita and the unmentionables, where the exact, I think you can say, polar opposite.
Well, good news is you have Taylor Calvert returned to the floor. She came in against Charleston Southern, played 14 minutes, played over 20 minutes on Monday night. A four-year player. She started most of the games, a good leadership presence on the floor. What is she going to bring to the second half of the season?
Well, we are happy that she is still with us because we had a scare. Her eye ran into Leah Kilpatrick's elbow, and she had just got the results of the MRI back, and we thought that there might have been a fracture of the orbital bone, which would have been very serious. But we came back okay, and our training staff was very happy, and we were elated that she's going to be able to continue, and she was elated as well. She's only played, 2 games?
Third, she played against Tennessee, and then the 2 in conference.
Right, 2 conference games. I've forgotten. I tried to forget that Tennessee game. The Hall of Fame was nice, though.
Hall of Fame was great.
Yeah, so we'll try to get back on track, and Taylor's a big part of that defensively, and so we're anxious and hopeful.
What about from a leadership standpoint? You have a lot of second-year players, first-year players, some third-year players. Taylor has kind of been through the wars. How important is she kind of from an emotional standpoint, a leadership standpoint, a been there and done that standpoint?
It's so important because, she and Samaya went through and experienced the bad, that they helped to change the program since they've been here, and they understand what it takes to win a championship. I think I was talking with one of my staff members today, and they said, Coach Cook, you're a pretty blunt guy, and I try to be transparent. I think this team wants it to be easy, and there's nothing easy about it now. We've got to roll up our sleeves and get to work, and until we understand that it's difficult, then we're going to keep having a roller coaster type of season, up one game, down. And that's not about me. That's not what I'm about. That's not what our staff's about. We're about consistency. So we'll just keep grinding away, and hopefully, the staff has had a very long week, and the players have been busy, but I think they'll be ready to go on tomorrow night.
Well, I think you bring up a good point, Coach, in that when you look at what the team has gone through years past, they've been the team that has been chasing either first place or the conference championship. Now the role is reversed, and I think that's what we saw on Monday.
Yes.
That Gardner-Webb came in and said, hey, we're playing the defending champs.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we responded or Winthrop responded like they were the defending champs.
Exactly. And Liberty Del Rosario brought this up in a staff meeting. She said, we've got to be ready for Asheville. They're gunning for us. And now they kind of looked around the room and she said, well, they're all gunning for us. That's exactly right. And there's a different kind of readiness when you're the hunted and you're not the hunter. And we are still getting used to that. And our four freshmen, they haven't got it yet.
Right.
And so we're leaning on Taylor. We're leaning on Samaya. I mean, you talk about Ken Palm, and we did some research today with our statistics and points scored during wins and points scored during losses, ranked in our conference games. And it's amazing where our three scores are. And Samaya Wright is really amazing. In conference players ranked only during wins, she is 14th. In losses, she is 46th. Now, this could be this, that, or the other, but we've got to recognize that. And is it a me thing where I'm not going to her enough during those games? Something that the opponents are doing defensively? We've got to find that out. We've got to continue to get into numbers, and our staff is big with numbers. We got to continue to delve deeply, and we'll find out. And again, it all boils down to this: once we find a few of these clues, it's up to our players to bring the energy and the effort.
One trend we have seen in some of the losses, and I know this is something that you address and you mark the shooters, but and it's not so much the number of threes. We've seen in some of the losses 8, 9, 10 threes. 10 threes seems to be kind of the magic number, but it's the timeliness of those threes. And without maybe giving away too much, what do you try to do to mitigate that?
It's an interesting question. I can't really answer it with a definitive answer. It's we look at film, we go through the scouts, we go through tendencies like everybody else does around the country. Sometimes, we're locked into that. Some games, as you've seen, we've not been as locked in. And speaking with you guys before we went on the air, and Brad Ronell, I kind of like his philosophy. They screw up, they get them out of there.
But what we have seen when this team is clicking, what works well is you either get an offensive rebound, a tip ball, a steal, and all of a sudden you're in transition, you're scoring points. That's kind of the Winthrop way right there. It
is. And you look at our shot attempts, and this is something I'm very alarmed with. We're getting attempts in the 50s, 57, 54. And scoring in the men's game has been a downward trend, I think, by 5 or 6 points. The same is true with the women. Now, we've got to do a better job in the women's game of protecting the shooter. The shooter's still getting fouled in the act again and again and again. I'm talking, I've got to talk from a broad spectrum. I can't talk specifics there.
Right, of course. That would be against the rules.
And so we've got to get out, and we know we've got to push the pace, and we've got to run. And we're looking at few different combinations that it will enable us to get out and push. We've got to get up 70 attempts back. I listened to the pregame. It's an amazing thing where you get a championship game, like in the Big South Championship last year, where we scored 87 points. We got to get back to scoring in the 80s.
One last thing about Gardner-Webb, and then we got to head to our first time out, and then we'll talk about Asheville coming up. But what was Gardner-Webb able to do against Shaquille? And she was battling inside, but it looked like they were denying her some passes, really kind of getting in her face when she was trying to shoot.
What they did, they collapsed 2, sometimes 3 around her. And this is what she's going to be seeing night in, night out. I mean, she's one of our top 2 scorers along with Erica, and everybody knows we're trying to work inside out in the half-court sets. So, we'll put things in. We've worked on it a little bit. We'll work on it more tomorrow in the shoot-around with her having options out of the double and triple team and what her reads will be. So we'll continue to be specific, and she'll continue to get better because, her work ethic, as we've talked many times, is off the charts. And this is the very positive thing about our team is that they care, they want to get better. They've taken this time during the break with no classes to come in and shoot on their own. This is another reason you've seen the shooting percentages rise.
Yep.
And so you've seen our free throw percentages rise. It's because they're shooting 100 a day. They have time. They're non-student athletes during this time. And so as we talk, that's the time to get better. But I'm also excited about a young lady that arrived last night at 10:15, Bridget O'Brien.
Let's hold on and we'll talk about that on the other side of the break. We'll talk about Asheville, but I want to talk about that because it's something I haven't seen in my time here. And it's I know you're excited about it. Players are excited about it, but let's talk about that when we come back here at Buffalo Wild Wings. Dave Friedman alongside. I am Mike Pacheco, Coach Kevin Cook. Don't forget the women playing tomorrow at 7 o'clock at home against UNC Asheville at Winthrop Coliseum. And we'll have more to come here on the Winthrop Coaches Show after this on the Winthrop Sports Network. Welcome back to Buffalo Wild Wing, getting ready for a couple of big games for Winthrop, both men's and women's coming up this week. Women back in action tomorrow against UNC Asheville. That game will be 7 o'clock at Winthrop Coliseum. Our next broadcast here at Buffalo Wild Wing, we hope you'll join us, will be Monday, January 12th. And, of course, a lot of great food options here. I know, Dave, you had the new Santa Fe wings. And,
Yep.
Coach, you crushed
Oh, the boneless wings
The
were
boneless
tremendous
wings, yeah.
with the honey barbecue sauce.
You know,
Wow.
Coach, I asked the folks here at Buffalo Wild Wings who chooses the boneless wings rather than the traditional wings. They told me mostly kids. So I feel as though, you and some of our support staff here, they just fit right on in.
now Big
I'm
Bad.
a big kid. Everybody knows that.
Big Bad's not here tonight. My son John, but he usually takes care of the Buffalo the boneless wings too. So good stuff here at Buffalo Wild Wings. I'm glad you're joining us, and hope you can come out and join us on Monday as well. So tomorrow, Asheville comes in, and this is another game, Coach, where and I hate the cliche, but I think with the way the team played on Monday, you have to throw the record out. You can't worry about what Asheville has done. They're 3-10 this year, but they're 2-2 in conference with wins over Charleston Southern and Longwood.
And they're very talented. They've got a lot of players that can hurt you. Paige Love is just a very aggressive option for them at the wing. They've got a young lady from Minnesota named KJ Weaver in the post who does a nice job for them. And then they've got Shawnese Jones on the wing, a left-handed gunslinger who's only averaging 10 a game, but she can drop 30 points on you in a heartbeat. And we have to be ready. We're the entire team. Brenda Mock, Kilpatrick does an excellent job with them. And so we'll be expecting their best shot, as we've taken everybody's best shot this year.
When you look at Asheville, another one of these conference games, you mentioned some of the personnel, but this is a team that, 2 years ago, they were 0-18 in conference. Last year, I think they had 6 or 7 wins. That's a program that's on the rise.
Absolutely. and they're beating the recruiting trail awfully hard. And like I say, they're doing a nice job, and we'll have to bring our A game to be successful. We're going to have to play much better defensively, and I'm confident that we'll bring our energy and our effort tomorrow.
After the game against Asheville, it's back-to-back road games at High Point and at Radford. And I know we talk about this every year. We talk about it in the non-conference, men's coaches, women's coaches. But what is it about playing on the road that is just that much more difficult? For the layperson says the court's the same length, the game is called in the same way, the rules are the same.
You hope.
So what's the, well, this is not a guarantee game situation. So what's the difference?
One word: familiarity. That's a hard word to say, actually. Familiarity is the big difference. And you're going on the road. It's not just a trip. You're in a foreign bed. You got to go out and eat at restaurants. You got to play on their court where they're practicing every day. And you get maybe a shoot around. And so there are challenges, but thank goodness we've got a very solid support from our administration, and we're going to be able to go up and the day before and get a shoot around in, and that's going to be very helpful to get a good night's rest without having to get on the bus and play, because that's a challenge now. That's a challenge. And so we appreciate that very much, and as our players do.
And we see a lot of the road games. I know, of course, the Winthrop home games are early on Saturdays, but we've seen that trend for most of the Saturday road games as well. And so, you almost have to do that because to get up so early.
Get up at 6 or 7 in the morning.
And then drive over here or drive to everywhere you got to go.
You're absolutely right. And so that's why going up the night before is so important. And again, we're just going to have to approach those road games with the same kind of energy that we hope we bring to the court every game.
Now, Asheville, capable of shooting the outside shot, they're only averaging about 4 3-pointers a game, or right around there. Is this a game where, with the way that you've been playing zone defense, obviously you have to be conscious of the outside shot, but this is a game that's going to be a lot of driving and dribble drive penetration?
Exactly. And it's also going to be a game where we've got to take care of the basketball. Yeah. They're gonna pressure us, and we worked on press breaks today. We worked on some different combinations, and it looked really good. We've beaten the press, as you've seen, but once the press has been beaten, we haven't made good decisions.
Right.
We've tried too hard to go ahead and get the layup where maybe we should have pulled it out and run a set. And so we worked on those kind of situations.
Well, how much of it, too, is still, this team's still trying to learn together, but how much of it is let the game come to them as opposed to maybe forcing things? So that's what we've seen, a lot of those unforced turnovers.
Exactly. And, once again, we're a young team with only 2 seniors, Taylor Calvert, Samaya Wright, and we're still trying to blend and get the chemistry right. But that's why they call it a season.
Right.
And, we're peaking, yes, to try to do well and to try to win the regular season conference. But what it all boils down to, as we've talked many times, is Myrtle Beach madness.
That's right. Well, this is the 9th season for Dave and I. I don't recall seeing this before. It's a situation you see a lot of times for football teams, Division I football teams. You have the opportunity to gray shirt a player. Bridget O'Brien came on campus last night. She'll be able to practice with the team. But tell us a little bit about her. Comes from Australia, and she's really a great story.
Bridgie is a great person, and I know her mother, Mel, is listening. She's a loyal supporter of the Coaches Show, and she's looking forward to meeting you two guys. And so Bridgie got here at about 10:15, and I immediately was hoping that we could put a uniform on her and try once again, but she's adamant about trying to get stronger and to play 4 years with Ariane Whitaker. And those two have been in constant contact with one another. and they really enjoy each other very, very much. And so they're going to be cornerstones, for 4 years to come. They're both excellent students. Winthrop has become a better place, with those two deciding to come here, not just as a basketball program, but as a university. That's how much I believe in them as young people. I'm really proud that they've come here and chosen us. But Bridgie could have went to any one of 300 schools. I mean, 300 schools recruited her, some of in the top 10. But we were very fortunate that she decided to come to us, and as we were as well with Ariane. So the Calvary's right around the corner. We're going to be good this year, but we could really be salty for the years to come.
I vote for a preseason trip to Australia with the games being broadcast, of course.
To Queensland.
Yeah.
I can't imagine why the games wouldn't be
Yes.
broadcast.
That might be a two-man job.
Real quick, in the time we have remaining, you make it sound so easy. She was recruited by top 10 programs, and here she is in Rock Hill. Well, it's not. It doesn't come quite that easy. What was the sell? How did it happen?
With 3 phone calls. The 3 magical phone calls.
Magic Michael and Larry?
Yeah, yeah, something like that. Kenneth Friedman. And Coach was a fellow that I met at a point guard college, and we became friends and stayed in contact. And he befriended Bridget and her family, and they trusted him. And he said, "Hey, these folks at Winthrop will take care of you, and they'll watch over you. They're good people, and I know them." So, as the song says, you get high with a little help from your friends.
Coach, before we let you go, Asheville and High Point, we know you're coming off a tough loss. You talked about the tough practice. You talked about the team bonding. What are the 1 or 2 areas Winthrop fans can be looking for tomorrow night to identify, yeah, this is the team Kevin Cook wanted to have on the floor?
Are we aggressively attacking their pressure? Are we actively? Are we just being getting all the 50-50 balls? Are we out efforting them? If we're outworking them and we're getting out and running and on the break, they'll say this is Winthrop basketball. But if you see us hesitant and you see us kind of questioning, not looking a little bit unsure, that's not the team we want to see.
Well, Coach, good luck. I know Bobby Stevens and I will be on the call tomorrow. The men will be playing tomorrow night, but good luck tomorrow night, and we'll catch up with you tomorrow.
Thank you, and Happy New Year, everyone. See you at the Coliseum.
All right, that's Kevin Cook. We'll hear from the men's head coach, Pat Kelsey. They'll be taking on Presbyterian in Clinton, South Carolina tomorrow at 7:30. So we'll be back with more from the Winthrop Coaches Show on the Winthrop Sports Network.
I don't think it's a smoldering. Welcome back to Buffalo Wild Wings. It's our Winthrop Basketball Coaches Show. Glad you're with us. Hope you'll join us every week here at BW3's off Dave Lyle Boulevard in Rock Hill. Great happy hour specials, 4 through 8 p.m. $3 domestics, $4 and $5 crafts and imports. Come see our buddy Diego. They've got the new smoldering Santa Fe sauce. Great time out here at Buffalo Wild Wings. If you want to participate in the show, send questions for women's coach Kevin Cook and men's coach Pat Kelsey to #WooCoaches on Twitter, #WUCoaches on Twitter, and follow us on Twitter all season long at Woo Eagles. That's at WU Eagles, at Winthrop WBB, at Winthrop WBB for women's basketball, at Pat Kelsey. Follow Mike at Mike Pacheco 81, and yours truly at Freakman_Dave. Get all of the inside scoop on Winthrop basketball throughout the year, and we do encourage you to participate. The men's team is at Presbyterian tomorrow night at 7:30. The women's team is home tomorrow against Asheville at 7 o'clock. There are tickets available. 323-2345, 323-2345, or online at winthropeagles.com. Well, what a start it was to the men's conference season. Back-to-back overtime games. The school has never gone to 3 overtime games in 3 straight games. So you can aim for that, or perhaps a more conventional result tomorrow in Clinton, South Carolina. But talk about the opening 2 games of the year, what you saw out of your team, what you liked, what you didn't like.
That's how I don't know if I'm on and you can hear me. I can hear myself. That's kind of how you expect conference play to go. I think the last time we had our radio show and we were sort of looking forward to conference play, we talked about how, every one of them are going to come down to the last, minute. That seems like how they always are. And sure enough, through the first 2, that's exactly how it's been. My blood pressure hopes that the third game in the third conference game in 3 games doesn't go to overtime, but there's probably a good chance it's going to come down to the last couple possessions just because that's how it goes. But, the season, as I tell you guys, is a lifetime. And, throughout your career, I think the basketball gods kind of find a way to even all that stuff out. You look back to last year when we won that crazy, crazy game down the stretch against UNC Asheville, and we're down 11 with, I think, 1:20 to play. And then, this year already we've lost 2 games at the buzzer. And we've lost 4 games by, I think, a total of 10 points, which isn't a lot at all. And with the parity in our league and parity in college basketball, hotly contested games are going to come down to the last couple possessions. And hopefully we learn some lessons that when we get in those situations again, we handle them better. But I think our kids showed a lot of resolve in both those games and situations where, we could have shut it down. We didn't. We showed great resolve. We kept fighting. Found a way to put ourselves in a position to win those games.
Let's talk about the first one, the win over Longwood, 82-72 in overtime. And in both games, and really over the last 3 or 4 weeks, Xavier Cooks has become, if not a go-to guy, a reliable guy. The impact he's having on your team, how important is it?
Yeah, you said it, and in a different way. But I think the biggest thing with me as a head coach is I trust him.
Mm-hmm.
I trust him. And when you get to that point with a player, is he a finished product? Absolutely not. Does he make mistakes? A ton of them. Does he have areas that he has to improve? A lot. But as we all know, he has innate ability. He's got a high basketball IQ, but he's not a finished product. But on the floor, I trust him. He understands concepts on the defensive end. He has a pretty good understanding for only being in our program for 3 or 4 months of our defensive system. And, at the 4, which is what he plays the most, and at 6'8", he's one of our best decision makers and one of our best passers. So he makes us more efficient on the offensive end as well. But as I said, he's a freshman, and he still does a lot of things that have to be cleaned up and have to be cleaned up really, really quickly. But it's good to see him progress from where he was when workout started, when practice started, when he was a little bit of a deer in headlights, mostly because there were so many cultural, adjustments that he had to make. I mean, the food's different, the everything. And, I think everything's sort of slowing down to him now. He's comfortable here. He likes it here. He's met a bunch of friends, and he's much more comfortable in his basketball shoes as well. And it's good to see him progress, and hopefully he can continue to get better throughout the year.
The Aussie had 13-9 against Longwood, and Keon Moore didn't start that game well, but he sure did finish it well. Keon Moore is scoring in volume now. Is this what you come to expect, or is it unrealistic to say, oh yeah, Keon's going to give us our 20 a game?
Well, one of his big roles on our team is to score the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And Keon is a phenomenal scorer. I mean, he's a very talented young man. He's got ice water in his veins. He wants the ball in big moments. He just has that innate ability to put the ball in the basket. Is it unfair? I think the last 2 games he's had 27 and 30 points. I think it's a little bit unfair to expect him to have that type of production. But, it's not all about numbers. It's about wins and losses. But, my goodness, we're lucky to have him. And I say this all the time. I'm going to look back on my career like I said last year about Joey Jerome, and I'm going to say the same things about Keon Moore, and I'm going to feel really, really lucky that I can count on one hand the number of guys like them that believe in what we do, that believe in our culture, that are gym guys, that show up early, that stay late, that finish coaches' sentences, that love the game, that volunteer at schools, that read to little kids, that high-five kids at camp, that do all the things that you want a Winthrop basketball player to do, and that's what Keon Moore does. So I'm sorry to get off on a tangent because everybody wants to talk about, his prolific scoring numbers lately, but I think we got to be careful not to lose fact that he's been such a big culture guy for us, and and I'm proud to say that I've coached him.
But to dovetail on that just a second, and I'll drive Dave nuts because he likes to talk X's and O's, but winning is great no matter what, but when you win with kids that you trust and you can go to war with, and that they're good people, I mean, that just makes it even more sweet.
That's what we're going to be about. We're obviously the name of the game is to win games and to hang banners and to win championships, and in this business, that's how it goes. I mean, but you want to coach a certain type of kid, and you want your program to be about certain things, and our kids know what that means, and I think they uphold that every day.
We always, maybe every 3-4 weeks, we always check in on this question, and it's been a tough stretch, and I think to go where you want to go, sometimes you have to go through things like this. But do you feel like you've got a handle on what this team's identity? Have they really been able to develop that, or do you still need to see a little bit more from them?
No, I mean, I think I have a really good feeling of who we are, and we got a chance to play in the NCAA tournament. I haven't wavered on that. Whatever our record is right now, 6-7. I mean, it's a really, really fine line from being whatever it is, 9-3 or 9-4, something like that. I mean, it's a really, really, really fine line. And as long as we don't allow some of these early season disappointments, losing at the buzzer, losing a double overtime game in the manner with which we did the other day, as long as you don't allow those to affect the next one and the next one and the next one, and you take them one at a time, you play who's on your schedule, and you prepare the best you can, and you're better on February 7th than you are on January 7th, and you're better on March 7th than you are on February 7th, that's the deal. Yep. And, that's that's up to you guys, and that's up to the media, and that's up to fans to shoot holes in wherever you are right now. But as a coach, you want to make sure that you're trending in the right direction, no matter what the scoreboard says, that every day you feel like, that you're getting better. And I think I can say that about our team to this point.
When you say where your team is, you're averaging 75.8 points a game, the most a Winthrop team has averaged since 1992, 1993. Is that who you are? You're a team that outscores people?
No, I don't think that.
So who are you?
Well, I mean, I think we're a team that is very potent offensively, can score the ball. And again, when I say this, I'm not making one excuse and I'm not giving one explanation. But, we have 4 very, very experienced post players out right now. And, we're going into very heated conference games against very good post players with 3 post players. Our top 3 post players right now are all freshmen. And I think, maybe the step backwards that maybe we're taking right now, because those kids are playing so many minutes and so many significant minutes, as long as they continue to get better, continue to evolve, continue to sharpen their saw, we'll get better as we move forward. You know, you look at, I'm a big numbers guy. Our field goal percentage defense is right at 40%. I think it's 40.8%. I think our 3-point field goal percentage is 32.5, maybe 33. If you're holding teams to 40 and 30, defense is important to you.
Mm-hmm.
And, and those numbers don't fall short on me. Our Ken Palm numbers are 229th in the country. That's not that, relative to the rest of our conference, I think that's fourth, which, and there's two reasons we're not better. One, our defensive rebounding percentage isn't better. I think we're 301st in the country in defensive rebounding percentage. And the second reason is we're fouling too much. The free throw attempts per field goal attempts that we're allowing on the defensive end are the two red marks on our Ken Palm efficiency that are keeping us from being in single digits and making us a green team. You guys know that study Ken Palm, what that means to be a green team. So when you're holding teams to 40 and 32 and your Ken Palm's 229, it offends me greatly. And I'm not mad at you or anything like that, but it offends me greatly to say, to even, say that we're a team that just wants to outscore people. I mean, if you come to our practice today or yesterday or the day before, 75% of our practice is spent on defense. And if it's not the way I want it, we do it again. If it's not the way we do it again. And we're not in school right now, so we're not subject to NCAA rules. So if we have to stay there 7.5 hours, we're going to stay there till we're guarding the right way. Now we don't, but our kids know that. And I'm never going to equivocate on that. I'm never going to be a coach that doesn't take great pride in defending and gritting our teeth and taking pride in getting stops. Obviously, we have a potent offensive team, and it helps that we played 15 extra minutes, that our scoring average is up a little bit. There's a lot of OT, built in there a little bit. But you're right. We have ability to score the ball, but we always are striving to get more efficient on the defensive end.
You mentioned post players that are out, and all year you've been without James Bourne and Larry Brown and Zach Price, but Tevin Prescott missed the High Point game, and Dubio Keke was injured in that game. Where are those guys now?
Well, Doobie's been fine. He's practiced the last 2 days. I mean, I think he still has some soreness and some aches and pains in his ankle and stuff, but it's an ankle. I mean, he's fine. Tevin has slowly gotten better every day. And, he tried to go a little bit yesterday and practice some. He practiced a little bit more today. And we're hoping that he keeps making, the same strides and the same jumps every day so that hopefully he's back there tomorrow at Presbyterian at 7 o'clock. And from what I saw from yesterday, today, I feel pretty good that he'll be out there, but I don't know.
We're live at Buffalo Wild Wings. It's our Winthrop basketball coaches show. The men's team takes on Presbyterian tomorrow night at 7:30. The women's team is home for Asheville tomorrow at 7. Coming up on January 24th, a terrific event. Last year, the Back the Pack in its fourth year donated $20,000 to Rock Hill schools, and additional thousands of pounds of food donated each year to the local community. You can be a part of this year's Back the Pack. Get all the information at winthropeagles.com. We'll come back with more with Coach Kelsey after this on the Winthrop Sports Network. Buffalo Wild Wings. It's our Winthrop Basketball Coaches Show. Our next show is next Monday here at BW3. Hope you'll have an opportunity to join us as we talk basketball with men's coach Pat Kelsey and women's coach Kevin Cook. That's next Monday at 6 o'clock here at Buffalo Wild Wings. Great thanks tonight to Austin Peak back in studio with Mike Pacheco. I'm Dave Friedman. Men's coach Pat Kelsey is with us. You can chime in on Twitter using hashtag WooCoaches. A lot of questions about the game against High Point on Saturday. A double overtime loss, 90-87 was the final. And a lot of the questions surrounding the end of that first overtime where you fouled intentionally. Obviously, you like to foul up 3, sending them to the line for 2. That's your philosophy. I'm also a firm believer in that. You make a team make 3 or 4 plays rather than simply hitting a 3 to send the game to overtime. But let's talk a little bit more about your philosophy. When do you foul? Where do you foul? Why do you foul?
Up 3, obviously, when there's less than 10 seconds on the clock, I think that's when that strategy comes into play. The initial foul was supposed to be at midcourt to allow, I think there was 8.4 seconds left, to allow maybe 2.5, 3 seconds to go off the clock, and then foul at midcourt. We didn't do that. We fouled right away. So now there was more time on the clock. The kid made both free throws, fouled us, went back to the line. And, the communication was if he made both, we would do the same thing. We have a call for an immediate foul and for a foul at midcourt. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but so that was obviously the strategy. And when he didn't make both, lost in the communication was, obviously if he didn't make 2 and we were only up 2, the last thing we would want to do is foul, and made an ill-advised play, and that's the way it is. So we'll learn from it, and I'm sure it won't happen again.
And the reason that you prefer the foul than just playing defense is what?
Well, I mean, a lot of people a whole lot smarter than me have done, hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of research, Ken Pomeroy being one of them, who might be one of the smartest basketball minds in terms of, money ball type things that you could possibly do. And, research has shown that more times the teams that foul in that situation win more games and are more successful than the ones that do it the other way. Not to say that the guys that don't foul when they're up 3, aren't right as well. There's no exact right answer, but through all of the research that I've done, we found that's the smartest strategy, and that's the way we would do it on the move forward.
This isn't New York City, and you're not Joe Torre or Joe Girardi. But when you beat a team in overtime, people go, "Oh, good job, coach," and then they move on. Then when you lose a similar game in overtime, you hear from people all over the place, "You should have done this. You should have done this." How much pressure do you feel when things go wrong like that? You lose the game. I mean, it's one game in a long journey, in a long career, in a long season. But how much do you kind of feel that heat?
There's no pressure from the exterior that will ever match the individual pressure that I put on myself. And we work really, really hard. And we work with 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids that don't do things perfectly all the time and make mistakes. And I'm human too, and I make mistakes. And the coach that's on the other bench is going to make mistakes too, because, he's human as well. But you prepare the best you can. You try to put yourself mentally in those situations of what you would do. And I would do the same thing that I did in the High Point game exactly the next time we're in that situation. Obviously, we would do a better job of communicating that to our players so that it's not lost in the translation, not to foul when you're up 3 or to foul when you're up 2 instead of 3. And, we've addressed that a little bit in practice, devoting a little bit more time to those end game situations so that the first time our guys aren't in those situations is when the bullets are flying, it's for real, and the uniform's on and the lights are on. So, like I said, we work really hard, and what happens. And I can put my head on my pillow at night, close my eyes, and know, I work really hard, and our players work really hard to win games for our university and for our fan base. And sometimes things go your way, sometimes they don't. Sometimes the ball bounces your way, sometimes it doesn't. It's kind of what I told you earlier on in terms of the basketball gods. I think things even out throughout the course of a season and throughout the course of your career. and we've had a couple tough luck situations here early on. Hopefully the tide turns the next time we have that opportunity.
Because the foul didn't go your way and you lost the game, you hear a lot about it. There was another play earlier in the game where you threw away an inbounds pass. High Point missed the shot. I haven't heard one single person complain about that because it didn't impact what happened, but it could have. If you spent 5 extra minutes or 10 extra minutes in practice on every single thing in every game that could be changed, you'd be at the Coliseum for 28 hours a day. How do you choose what things need to be addressed day in and day out?
Well, it's like I said, you do a lot of game situation type stuff in practice, and you try to put your guys in those positions, and hopefully when it happens in a game, they make the best decision. But you're right, you got to be careful about what you do and don't do in practice, how hard you go and how hard you don't go. It takes me sometimes 4 or 5 hours to put together a 90-minute practice, because you're constantly putting stuff in, taking stuff out, putting stuff in, taking stuff out. And, Coach Frost used to say all the time, I'd rather my teams be fresh than ready. And I think what he means by that is sometimes you as a coach are always trying to jam more in, and you're trying to do more and more and more because you're worried about this one thing the other team might do that you didn't prepare for. But sometimes while you're doing that, it's information overload and it's paralysis by analysis for your guys, or you're just beating down on their bodies too much because you're practicing too darn long, when you need them at 7 o'clock on January 8th when the ball goes up in the air to be physically, mentally fresh and ready to compete their rear ends off. Because more often than not, that's more important than anything. Are your guys ready to play? Are they excited to play? Do they have the proper, energy to play? And I think most of the time, the more excited team, the more engaged team is the team that wins most of the game. So it is that tough, that tough balancing act between too much and not enough. But obviously those, situational plays are really important. But like I told you, you're dealing with 19, 20-year-old kids. And you know what? Sometimes they make a bad inbounds play and the ball goes out of bounds. And it happens. You go back in the locker room and you address the mistakes you made. You work hard the next day and you go out and play the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. That's just how it goes.
Well, we are shaped by our experiences. How much of maybe an unintended consequence of you don't want it to go poorly, but when it does, it's a good teaching moment so that hopefully down the road, it's something that it helps in the positive.
That's the whole deal. The sharpening your saw in practice every day is great, but I think, what you learn as a player and as a coach, in those game situations are really, really important. It prepares you for, these intense conference games that are going to continue to come up every 2 or 3 days. And then obviously for the all-important conference tournament in March.
Tomorrow night, you get Presbyterian at 7:30. On paper, it's Jordan Downing, who averages 17 a game and was over 20 last year. The big man, William Truss, is just that, very, very large and difficult to move. And now Deshaun Murray has come back from an injury, a freshman, and he seems to be a pretty prolific guy both on the glass and scoring as well. When you look at PC, what do you see?
It's like everything else in our league. I mean, anybody can beat anybody on any given night. I mean, I watch him on tape, and I see a very dangerous offensive team that gives us problems. They got a very good post player who's big as a house and has good hands and can score around the basket and pass out of the post. They got a first-team all-conference 6'5" guard in Jordan Downing. You mentioned Deshaun Murray, the freshman, who has been a double-double guy in the 3 games that he's been able to play. He's been injured for most of the season. High motor, energy, tough guy. And then, Marcus Terry, the sophomore, is a very, very highly touted player out of high school, and that was a big-time recruit for them when they got him. So that's another very talented player that we have a lot of respect for as well. And Greg Nybert's a phenomenal coach. Every time you go to Presbyterian, I've experienced this since I've been here. Marty McGillen saying it's been this way, ever since he's been here. It doesn't matter what type of team they have, what type of team you have, what year it is. When you go down there, it's going to be a 1 or 2 possession game down the stretch. And that's probably how it'll be tomorrow.
Last 4 games of PC decided by 7 points or less. And Greg Nybert, might be the only coach in America that has more excitement and enthusiasm than you do.
I like Greg. He's a really good person and a very, very good coach.
When you look at a wing scorer, a 5th-year senior in Downing who likes to shoot, when the ball is in his hands, wherever he is on the court, he thinks he's open. How do you defend a guy like that?
Well, he's going to get his shot attempts up. He's going to get, as we call in basketball parlance, his squeezes. He's going to squeeze a bunch off. And, you just got to make sure that they're contested, tough shots. And he's going to make some of them. And then you tip your cap and you run down the other end, you play offense. And then the next time you make sure he's shooting another tough contested shot. But if he's getting good, open rhythm looks, he can give you 30, 35, or 40. So, I think that's the biggest thing. You got to put different guys on him to give him different looks throughout the game. You can't give him a steady diet of how you're guarding screens. Sometimes you got to chase. Sometimes you got to whip. Sometimes you got to run two guys at him. You just can't let him get a bead on exactly how you're guarding him. And, that's what you have to do with any great scorer.
How does Trust compare to Wobo, the big on Longwood?
I think they're both similar in that they're real estate guys. They want to buy and own real estate monopoly close to the basket with an angle. I think Nwagbo, or I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, is a little bit more mobile than Truss is. But I don't know if there's anybody in our league that's harder to move than William Truss. I mean, he's an aircraft carrier once he gets his angle, and if he gets you on his back and he has an angle, he'll hold you off, and then he catches the ball, which is a great trait for bigs to have. Bigs with good feet and good hands that can get angle layups are worth their weight in gold. And plus guys that make free throws, and he makes most of his free throws as well.
Give us one item, one thing that tomorrow's game comes down to.
We got to protect the box. We've been saying that so much in preparation. And Jordan Downing obviously is a very potent perimeter player, but we got to make sure that William Truss doesn't kill us at the box like John Brown did in the last game.
Winthrop men's coach Pat Kelsey. The men play at Presbyterian tomorrow night at 7:30. Pre-game coverage begins at 7. Go to the women's game tomorrow at the Coliseum, 7 o'clock tip against UNC Asheville. For our friends here at Buffalo Wild Wings, for Coach Cook and Coach Kelsey, for Mike Pacheco, I'm Dave Friedman. Great thanks to Austin Peak. Back in studio, our next coaches show next Monday here from BW3s. We'll talk to you tomorrow night on the Winthrop Sports Network.